So we are now here with the amazing GSA Club guests. Can you please say your names?
I'm Ms. Richardson.
And I'm Miss Kit.
So thank you so much for coming. Do you want to start the question?
Sure.
Thank you.
What are some of the activities or events that the Gay Straight Alliance Club organizes or participates in throughout the year?
So we do a lot of parties, actually, just get-togethers. And then the biggest thing that we participate in is the district-wide Pride event. Last year it was in May. This year it's in April. So our GSA has a table at the Pride event and does activities there.
What is the mission and the vision of the GSA Club, and how did it start?
Alrighty, so I'm one of the newer add-ons, and so I believe it started off with Miss Cervantes.
Yeah.
And then it kind of built on from there, and you kind of grew the entire GSA from there.
Yeah, so the vision for the club, and it's still our mission to this day, is just to create a safe space for LGBTQ plus students as well as allies, where they can just come be themselves, feel welcome, safe, seen, and supported. And in 2019, Miss Cervantes noticed a need and reached out to me, and we kind of just took off from there.
Beautiful.
What are some of the challenges or barriers that LGBTQ plus students face in our school or society, and how do you address or overcome them?
All right. So some of the challenges or barriers that our students do face is going to be a lot of internal, like, self-realizing and coming to terms with themselves, as well as maybe others in their family. There's also the outside source of bullying and kind of peer pressure from others and trying to fit into societal norms. Something that we try to do is create that safe space for our students and have kind of an open mind to anything and everything, so that they can have that opportunity to kind of come to terms with those inner thoughts, as well as kind of helping each other out and supporting each other through the difficult times.
Yeah. Some other issues that affect them and just LGBTQ youth at large is mental health, because they may not be in a supportive home. So unfortunately, 41% of LGBTQ plus students nationwide that were surveyed don't feel safe at school. And 2 out of 3 students or youth don't have a safe and welcoming home environment where they can be authentic. So it's extremely important to have those safe spaces wherever we can. That means here at school. It also means out in the world, just being those safe people, safe spaces for people who need it.
Absolutely. So you mentioned about like the, nationwide Pride event, but is there any other ways that you can like connect to like kind of like the rest of the district, or is it just that part when you connect to the rest of the district?
Yeah, so right now the district is working on doing a district-wide Google Classroom for GSA clubs, so that GSA clubs in elementary can connect with middle schools that they're going into that might have GSAs, as well as GSA clubs in middle school that can connect to high schools, and kind of continue that network moving forward, as well as we have a website that our students can go to and a Google Classroom that our students can go to get resources to link up with other LGBTQ youth around, so that they can get support, even if it's virtual. If they can't make it to in-person meetings, they can join us online or have group chats, things like that, where they can get support that they need.
That's awesome. Just connection.
Yeah, it's all about connection.
How do you recruit and retain members and volunteers for the GSA club, and what are the benefits of joining or supporting it?
Alrighty. So a lot of our recruitment, you would say, would be just kind of advertising over the intercom and through kind of like the grapevine of students, and just kind of saying, hey, there's a GSA on every other Tuesdays. Everyone is welcome. And just kind of retaining those members is, right, just kind of creating that safe and supporting environment for all. Kind of just allows them to feel like they can be themselves, and that in itself, right, retains those members. Volunteering, we do have some of our like presidents and leadership roles. Yes, the leadership roles, and that's something that we encourage our students and members to join, and they willingly come in and help put on the club, as well as being the face of GSA.
So it's like, sorry, I forgot what I was going to say, but it's like, you're kind of saying like how it's just like, it's mostly just like about support, like.
Yes.
Feeling safe. Yes.
Yeah,
feeling safe.
it's
I love that.
It's all about support and having just a room and people who accept everyone, and no matter anything, really.
Yeah, it's a judgment-free zone. Definitely.
So a question I have for you is, what are some challenges of LGBTQ plus students who are struggling with their identity or facing discrimination or harassment?
So as far as support and empowering our students, we give them legal information about laws that protect them, even as underage students. There are quite a few laws in California that are passed that protect them, and they're not quite aware of that. They think that doesn't start until maybe high school or maybe, into college, but it's something that applies to them now. So they need to know that they have a right to privacy. They have a right to access facilities that align with their identity. They have the right to the proper pronouns and their asserted name, and they don't realize that. So we give them that information so they can advocate for themselves here at school, out in the world, things like that.
I think that's amazing, because I feel like students are not aware of their laws, and I think it's great for them to be aware of what laws, because there are some students that do say negative comments, and I think it's important for people to say laws like you just said. I think that's fabulous.
Yeah. So we give them those resources so they can quote them. They know ed code, they know assembly bills that directly represent them and protect them.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like a lot of students like kind of like hide away, like, so it's like they're able to like express themselves and like, as you said before, like feel safe, have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
And also it's like you teach them about the law, so it's like they don't have to go to that space. They're able to like kind of show more if they want to, but it's like kind of like you can expand on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and they don't necessarily know the right questions to ask, or that these even exist to ask about them. So by giving them that knowledge, they can ask questions while we're in the meeting, while we're giving this information to them. They can come to us after the fact. They can send us emails. They can do it privately and anonymously if they want, so that they can get more information for themselves, for protection, and again, advocating for themselves from now into high school.
And going off of that, you were talking about ed code and ed laws, so educational laws that are applying to students and informing them about that. But it also, at the beginning of the year, teachers are also informed of these laws and informed in depth that it is not an if, and, or but. It is a law. And this is something that is protected. And we are here to create a safe environment for all students, no matter what we believe in. And so teachers do get this training from outside sources as well. I remember this year we went into a really good professional development that was talking about all the different educational laws, but also, right, some of these questions that you were asking of how does it affect our students? What is really happening in their lives during these moments.
Yeah. So just to kind of support that a little bit more is that our district is extremely proactive with these measures. So 2 years ago, Assembly Bill 493 passed in California, which forces educators, staff members to get this training on LGBTQ plus laws and ways to support their students. Well, our district was like, we're not going to wait the 2 years to start this training. We're going to start it right away. And they immediately got resources. They hired, they spent a lot of money hiring professionals, experts to come in and train teachers, to let teachers know what they can and can't say, what they can and can't do, what rights students do have here at school. And so I've been really impressed with our district, kind of taking that head on to make sure that staff members are educated, so therefore students are protected.
That's amazing.
So
Also, this is kind of off topic, but I think I have the same pin as you, but I don't know.
Mine's backwards.
Oh, maybe. Oh wait, no. Mine's a heart though.
Oh,
wait. They're similar. Sorry.
Yeah.
I just saw it from the back. I was like, is this
yes, we can get tons of pins at the Pride events.
Yes.
And that's tons of freebie giveaways. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things is the district-wide Pride event, which I was kind of blown away with. Last year, the whole district kind of came out and supported, and got to see so many students and past students from other schools, and many different churches came out, and
different politicians. We had Governor Gavin Newsom's secretary come and represent the governor's office, because we were the first ever, last year, we were the first ever district that's known nationwide to ever host a Pride event. So we work with the National GSA network, as well as the Human Rights Campaign, and everybody I've spoken with has confirmed that they believe that our district was the first nationwide to hold a Pride event. A lot of districts will host like committee meetings or different things that just students are welcome at, but this was a community-based effort because the city of San Bernardino has never had a Pride event, and it's such a large city, and our district is the 8th largest district in the state. So it was really important to our district to make this statement to show support.
That's really
It's awesome.
Yeah. How do you celebrate and appreciate the diversity and uniqueness of LGBTQ plus identities and cultures?
Alrighty. So, some of the things that we do to celebrate and appreciate our scholars is going to be in that safe space of just kind of accepting those where they're at, and just kind of getting them to open up and let them be themselves and explore the fact that they get to be themselves. And a lot of times that is a process, and getting to see that is a wonderful experience of getting to see them be able to be their true self and be happy with themselves is just amazing. And so when we are celebrating together, and a lot of the times we're just going to be accepting of where we're at. And there, like you said, it's a judgment-free zone. You come as you are and have some fun. And so they're just very supporting of one another, and just kind of respectfully asking questions.
Yeah, that's a huge one.
Which we go over as well with those ed code laws. Of how do you respectfully ask questions when you're unsure, right? And how do you educate others? And go through that with the students so that they can bring that awareness to others and share their experience and share their life with others.
Yeah, and we go over every single meeting. We talk about norms and commitments that you have to make to be a part of the club. So everyone is welcome, but I make it very clear at the beginning of the club, and I, restate it multiple times throughout the year. Norms and commitments. Transparency is a huge thing. Honesty is a huge thing. Confidentiality is a huge thing. And just overall respect. And so we want to create allyship. This is not a club that is just for LGBTQ plus students. It's also for allies and friends of those members of the community. And so they have the right to come in and ask questions, but we ask that they do it respectfully. And then it's our job as part of the community to educate them. And we do that respectfully as well. We don't make fun of questions as long as they're done in a respectful way, because we want to create allies. That's how progress is made. So we make sure that every meeting is a celebration of different identities. And we do activities throughout the year talking about the acronyms, talking about the flags and changes that are happening constantly within the community. But I think the consistency of norms and commitments and the level of respect that we kind of demand from our members, and we give freely, I think that kind of is the biggest celebration for our club.
What's like your favorite part just like about the club? Like just kind of like in general, like
I love it when they come in and they have something like our students are like almost like pulsating. They're just like so excited about something. They have to tell us something like, did you hear this? Do you know this? It's, maybe about the news, or even sometimes they want to share what's going on in their life. I'd say getting to connect with our students and learn more about them. That's my favorite part, I think.
I agree. I like to be able to see students just kind of come together and support each other. And it's such a warm feeling to see that from our students. And it's not something you'll always get. And so to have a space where these students feel comfortable and feel safe and support one another is just amazing. And I wish there could be more of that.
Yeah. And I think this year we have the smallest group since we started. One year we had 55 students in the club. I know. So this year is much, much smaller. And I was sad at first, but then I saw these students that at the first club meeting didn't know each other. And now they're all interacting and have inside jokes. And it's become like a small little family, a little bit more, close knit. So I think that's been a cool thing to watch, is to see the new friendships develop and get support from people that they wouldn't have suspected support from.
Yeah, very much so. And I see that outside as well. They're not only just supporting each other inside the club. I'll sometimes come out at lunch and I'll see them supporting each other. And like you were saying, sometimes you wouldn't expect them to be together in the sense of being friends and supporting one another.
Yeah.
And they just kind of support each other no matter what, and just kind of bring all their friends together, and then it's just a big family.
Yeah. It's been really nice to watch. Yeah. And we're only halfway through the year. Not even.
Yeah, that's true.
So they're only going to get crazier.
Oh, yeah.
In the best way.
So I'm sure our district has done a lot, but do you believe our district should do more because we kind of play as an example for other districts to do? Or do you think what the district right now is doing is good enough?
You want to take this one?
So like I said, our district does kind of spearhead a lot of the progressive nature of supporting LGBTQ plus students. I always feel like we're not doing enough. So if you ask me personally, I'm going to say we're not doing enough, right? But there's also a bunch of other at-risk groups that we could do more for as well. So on one hand, I'm very, very grateful that our district is ahead of a lot of other districts, especially if you are in tune with the news. Even in local Southern California, there's a lot of districts that are going the opposite direction, more restrictive, more hateful, and more discriminatory. And our district has not only not gone that direction, they've gone the opposite, and they've done it publicly, which is even harder to do. They said, we're not going to do like this district did. In fact, we want to show more support. We want all the staff training. We want all the inclusive environments we can handle. So I'm grateful to the district for that. But there's some areas that I want a little bit more representation or a little bit more progress on. And that is in regards to facilities. So gender neutral facilities, to be exact. That goes for locker rooms, restrooms. And our district is making progress in that area. But I feel like it needs to be prioritized a little bit more, I guess I would say.
I
It's
thought,
okay. It's okay.
wait, I don't even know which one we haven't done. How do you collaborate or network with other GSA clubs or LGBTQ organizations in San Bernardino or beyond?
So we have our Google Classroom. The district's working on the district-wide Google Classroom. But within the district, staff members can be a part of different committees. And there's a committee that supports GSA clubs, as well as a Pride Planning Committee, which is a lot of the GSA advisors working together to plan this event. And I think that's where a lot of the networking takes place. And as far as outside of the district, the Pride event that we had allowed me to work with a lot of other organizations within the community, within the city of San Bernardino, different businesses, even community efforts, things like that. So I think our district is only growing and expanding that networking within the community. And the Pride event has been a huge catalyst to that.
Absolutely. Sorry. Yeah, but it's just like it's expanding and it like yeah.
It's
Very much
growing
so.
and ever changing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this question is like kind of random, but like if you were able to go to anywhere in the world, where would you go?
That's a difficult one.
I
Because I want to go to.
I know. I
want
love
to go
travel.
to. Yeah, I want to
So
go
I
to
would
a lot of places.
Almost nowhere is off limits for me. My bucket list is a mile long. I'd say at the top of my list is probably Peru. 2 out of my 3 best friends are Peruvian, and they've gone there, and I've seen pictures, and their culture and their food and just them as people makes me want to go there even more. So I'd say right now my number 1 is Peru.
I'm still thinking. There's a lot of places that I would love to go travel.
Just pick any of them. Just one. It's not happening today. You just got
But is it?
Japan.
No, Galapagos Islands.
Oh my God, I was going to say that too.
Okay.
Because the animals.
Yes.
Yes. 100%. I was going to say.
Okay. I would love to be able to go travel to the Galapagos Islands just to be able to see all the different variations of finches, Darwin finches. To be able to go kind of just see nature at its finest and just kind of getting to see where a lot of discovery started and started to evolve as well, and kind of get away from the older, different ways.
You to the scientist to pick a scientifically relevant location. I love it.
Yeah. Very much so.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. I just want to follow up on the Galapagos Islands. Is that the one in Ecuador, or like the country Ecuador? like in South America.
It's off the coast.
It's off the
Yeah,
coast.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I believe I heard of it. Because obviously, I just want to say that my mother's originate from Ecuador,
Oh,
so
okay.
I know I heard the name before. But my question is, I believe awareness is like a huge part of everything.
Mhm.
So, do you plan like in the future to spread more awareness as of what's right now happening, or do you believe just right now what we're doing in Rodriguez Pep is fine enough?
I personally feel like we can advertise more and be able to expand our advertisement to different lengths and be able to create a community that can kind of like harbor support and love versus hate and rejection. And so I do think that, it's something to think about, possibly creating like safe spaces and having that displayed in the classroom so that students can feel aware, because not always that is shown. And so they can be left thinking, well, can I be myself? Are they going to respect my pronouns? Are they going to respect this? Even though it's law, right? Our brains do tend to think about the things of, well, the what ifs. And so bringing that to kind of ease others during that time, but also spread that awareness of this is a campus of love and support and kindness. And then we can go from there, and being able to maybe work with other clubs of saying, hey, right, we want to join others and help each other out, and be able to spread that awareness so that we can have more allies and can be able to spread the word of support and educate those on what is respectful and what is safe and what is supportive of one another.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, we advertise and there are signs that say like safe space, but it's how it's represented, right? So is it a sign or is it active allyship? Are the teachers making a point to be inclusive, to use inclusive language in their classrooms? Are they making a point to use correct pronouns or correct themselves within the moment? Because that goes a long way with our students.
Yes.
They say, look, I get it that, my teacher is new to these pronouns, but when they correct themselves, it means so much. And so if we can get more staff members to do that consistently, I think that will kind of grow that safe space to more of a universally school-wide culture. And then, these teachers, we wear these badges that say Out for Safe Schools, which means that we've had the trainings. We know what is allowed and what isn't allowed. But I don't know if the teachers take an opportunity to tell students about that, because we wear these badges. Like, how often do students look at your badges? Never. So how can teachers represent to students that they are a safe space? Freshie, I can't give you a new one of that.
No.
Maybe you have to go to district office for that.
Oh,
But I am the keeper of these, so I will give you one.
Yeah, I'll put it
I
in
just had to
something
replace
else.
mine too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was lovely with like having you here and learning more about GSA. It was amazing. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for having us. We really
Thank you so
appreciate
much
it.
for having us and allowing us to be on your podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, I also want to say thank you because I had the opportunity to ask questions, and I love asking questions because I love spreading
Yes, you do.
awareness. Yeah. So yeah, I just believe that spreading awareness is one of the most important things that we can do as a society. So that's why I like to thank you a lot for coming on here and spreading awareness, because there's some things that students don't know what they need to know in order for us to have a thriving society.
Yeah, and if they listen to this and they have questions about any of their rights or protections, or if they just want to come check out the club because they're curious, that's always welcome too.
Or if they have questions about being an ally.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah. So they can find us not during club time too.
Yeah.
They can always email us or reach out to us at different times.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
So we are now here with the sewing club. Can you please say your name?
Yes, my name is Miss Amara.
Thank you so much for coming. So I'm going to start with questions. What do you think is the best part about sewing?
So the best part about sewing is basically like the creativity that we're able to put into our projects. A lot of the students, they just start off with an idea and they build on it and it just turns into something that they've created. And that's honestly something I also enjoy from sewing when I do my own projects. It's just kind of looking for a picture of something that I want and then creating it to something that's going to be for me. And I think that's the best.
Yeah, absolutely. The creativity. And what's your favorite color, and is it a good color for sewing?
My favorite color is actually blue. Any color is great for sewing. It all depends on what you're working on. Your objective. So if your objective is to maybe like have a color that stands out, blue is a good one. It also depends on the fabric that you're using, the patterns that you're trying to follow, and then the color scheme. So it all depends. Any color works in sewing, but blue is my favorite.
Light blue or dark blue?
I think it depends on the season.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I want to do like something for summer, I want to like stick with more of the lighter colors.
Yeah.
Something for like winter, then I want to stick with more of like the darker blues.
Yeah.
But it all depends too on preference. That's my choice.
Yeah.
What age did you start sewing?
That was a great question. I think I probably was in 4th grade. Yeah, 4th grade. Obviously not as advanced as I am now, but I started like interested in sewing because it was something that was taught in my household. So my grandma taught me, my mom taught me as well. So just kind of picking things up here and there. I know you guys nowadays, you have your phone and you're able to just get lost in it. But back then, that was not the case. So I wasn't able to have a phone as readily available as, we have now. The technology wasn't there. It was not touchscreen. So I wasn't able to do that. So I had to find different forms of entertaining myself. And sometimes it just happened to be like, oh, I have this shirt I don't like anymore. Can I do something with it? And I would just try and cut the sleeves off, kind of like make a little bit of alterations on the edges here and there. But that's my memory of starting to sew is at, 4th grade. Mm-hmm.
Right. And what are some of the resources or tools that you use or recommend for sewing beginners or enthusiasts?
So the way I started off my class, I will let you guys know when I was told like to start it. We knew we wanted to do something to obviously be about design, but we knew we wanted to do like a fashion club, something to do with fashion, something sewing, something hands-on. The idea was, how are we going to trust students with needles? Like, what kind of needles are we going to use? How does this look for our school and how would this play out? So we had to like plan out how to introduce the needles to the students, right? And so we came up with ideas of what tools we can use to help them, because out of all of the sewing materials out there, we use only a couple of them. We don't really use, basically everything that's out there. But the ones that I have my students start off with is for sure, I start them off with embroidery needles, which are a little bit different than regular needles. They're a bit thicker, right? And I kind of just want them to get used to the patterns, right? Although I know there's other techniques. The way I started was with that. We started off with basic sewing patterns, like the running stitch, the back stitch. Those are the basic ones that I have them do. And then after that, I had them pick different types of embroidery patterns that they could, practice on. So before they actually implement or use those patterns onto their own project, they do it on like a scratch sheet of fabric. Like, okay, let me see if I'm good at the whip stitch or, the satin stitch. So they had to like figure that out first. I started with embroidery for my beginners. We also did the needle thread. That one was a big, because students, like getting used to like putting the thread in the needle is difficult. Believe it or not, for me, it's easy, but for them, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm losing patience. How do I do this? So providing them that assistance can help them kind of have a little bit more of patience for their skills, because you need a lot of patience for some. So I think that one is my number one tool that a lot of them use. It's always requested. I'm always having to buy new ones because they're always getting kind of like broken in a way, because they're very, very they're very fragile,
Mhm.
but students lose patience and they just start pulling hard. And I know they do. And so then I have to go in, okay. What does that tell us? We got to like assess what we're doing with the tools. So that one would be the best one. We also use like our hoops to like stretch out fabric so that as they're stitching, they're not just stitching and then for the fabric to be all, like bunched up at the end. And they're like, oh, how am I going to fix this? And I'm like, well, you got to start again. And that's really the case. A lot of the times they have to restart projects when they're not turning out the way they want them. And that's one thing about sewing. It's, you got to take your time. This isn't a rushed process. This is something that you cannot procrastinate on. It's not like you can go and copy and paste it from the internet or have someone at home do it, because it even still takes practice and time. And it shows. It shows when, as a beginner and as they're moving on to a more proficient part of someone. Mm-hmm.
I believe like that's a lot of time consuming. So to follow up with that question, with a question is, how do you make time for this? So between your energy, between sewing, your 8th grade class, and also personal commitments, academic?
I love that you asked that question because I think that one was definitely one of the questions that I was like, oh my gosh, do I even know the answer to this? If you invest your time well at the beginning of the class, teaching the kids like what is supposed to happen, the structure, the management, the class is so fun. If you take a peek in our classroom, you'll notice that to this moment, all I basically do is just, okay, take care of your projects. Let's get started. Some students are in scrunchies, which we actually just finished our scrunchie project. Others are in their tote bag design. So they were given a tote bag and now they get to design the patches and the colors that they want to use. Am I going to be making a patch, or am I going to go home and see if I have something that I can already just bring, cut out, and just kind of like iron on to see if it works with what I'm trying to do? So I think a lot of time management and just kind of planning out from the beginning helps me. If I wouldn't have done that right now, I probably would have still been trying to figure out like, what project are we doing? How am I going to get so-and-so to, follow the directions? So it did take a lot of planning. But you know what? Seeing like the kids' enthusiasm in this class, because this class, it is offered to all grades, but I kind of always hope to have 7th and 8th in there. Just because I feel like they're a bit more mature, right? And since we are using needles, I try and just kind of have them guide themselves through their projects. As far as my academic life and personal life, I'm still figuring it out, guys. Energy, I just have to remember, every day we come to work, we're here with you guys, we share the energy, and tomorrow another day, again and again.
Yeah.
And just as everything, there's always an end. So even if maybe I'm having a hard day, I've had hard days where, like today, I feel like my ELA or history or sewing class is a lot. I just kind of have to take it day by day and remember, okay, today maybe we weren't all on the same page, but tomorrow we're going to be re-energized and continue.
Yeah.
So that's basically it. Just kind of taking it day by day, task by task, class by class. And that's how I find the energy.
Is it possible to learn sewing from YouTube, or is it not the best place to rely on?
In my perspective, on my opinion, I am not a master sewing teacher, but I will tell you that to this day, sewing, teaching, or learning sewing from YouTube, it's like the best way to go. Just because we're in a time, our generations, we just learn. We learn from what we see on YouTube, and YouTube is like huge. I find a lot of my resources not just from like teaching and, even like when I want to try something new, it's better for me to like see someone do it. And then like, oh, that's what it looks like. Okay. And then not to say that following directions, like, from other people isn't good enough. And it is definitely. But personally, I think that as, me teaching students who are, your guys' age, YouTube is the best way to go, because, I will tell you something I do use from YouTube is at the beginning when I teach them the basic stitches, they start learning different patterns, and someone might like a different pattern than, someone else. And I have those 2 videos to show, and they can just kind of like work at their own pace sometimes. And then at the beginning of this class, I was like, how am I going to teach them how to like do a running stitch? Do I have the camera over me and just like work through it? And what if they can't get it? Do I go back and do it again? How am I going to do that? Right? And so finding those videos on YouTube, I was able to post them and let the students work at their own pace. They can slow it down, speed it up, or I can just kind of sometimes see the video and be like, oh, you know what? At this minute, we're going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to do this other approach. So YouTube, honestly, I feel like it's a huge part of my class right now. And so, but little by little, those are like training wheels.
Yeah.
The students start letting go of those videos and they start understanding like, this is how you do a spreadsheet. This is how you do the stitch.
Yeah.
And so they're able to let go and they're able to do it on their own. So
yeah, another thing about like YouTube is it's very like visual. So then like a lot of people are visual learners. So then you can actually see it, because it's like if sewing was like a recipe, you know, for like, I don't know, cake, it's like if you're just reading it, you might not get it. So it's like, it's a good thing that it's like visual. So it's like you can see my hand going around and making the stitch.
Yeah, no, you're right. And a lot of students really just kind of, I have a lot of my students who come in, they're like, well, Samara, I saw this on TikTok. Look, can I do this? I was like, yes, you can. Go to the room, see what we have, you know, and if it's not interfering with the project we're doing now, bring it, do it. And they figure it out. I try to just at that moment, just kind of be the facilitator and watch. As much as sometimes I'm even excited about a project they bring, I'm like, oh, hold on, no, don't do it like that. Do it. No, I'm like, I have to respect their space. Let them figure it out. And if they mess up, it's okay. Because when you mess up in sewing, that's when you're able to really learn. Like when they understand, when they're like, Miss Morrow, like this thread is stuck. Like, what do I do here? Am I done? Is my design complete? And I'm like, oh, let's figure it out. What can we do so that this doesn't fall apart? So I actually just had that experience today with a student who was kind of stuck. And I really sat there with this one. I'm like, oh, what can we do? It's just critical thinking and just problem solving more than anything. But yeah, YouTube is huge.
All right. Where are the best places to get fabric for sewing?
With teachers. I'm not gonna lie. Fabric is expensive. Very expensive. At the beginning of the year, they give us about $500 to buy what we need for our classes overall. Right. Thankfully, I have everything I need for my ELA and history class. Most of the amount of money that I get from them goes to my sewing. So I wait for that and I look online for deals. But even then, something I've been doing is I go a lot to TJ, so Tijuana, right? And they have a lot of really good discounted stores where I can just go and get fabric. And I don't really need any like particular type of fabric sometimes, just the one that maybe like cotton is something that my students like a lot. We don't really work with like the spandex material yet because it's something that we got to work up to. But I go over there and I kind of just get, you know, what I can from there. Also, I do like let other people know, like, hey, I have a sewing class. If you have any curtains, anything like, I don't know, like a blanket you're not using anymore that's old and you don't want, anything like that, bring it. Because we're very resourceful. They know in my class, like I actually brought these inches to show you guys here. This was from a curtain and they made it, right? So, and the thing is learning to be resourceful, like recycle what you have, because yeah, it's expensive, but it doesn't mean that's not doable. And so when I bring that to my classroom and teach my students that, it becomes much more of a skill they can take outside of the classroom as they keep going on. They're going to have shirts they don't want anymore. They're going to have curtains they don't want anymore, you know, fabric. And so they're like, oh, I have an idea. I did something with this. I can do it again. So the best way or the best places to get fabric.
Madison, Delara, please come to the front office. Madison, Delara, thank you.
You could just continue with that though.
Yeah, so the best places to get fabric are definitely just kind of like hand-me-downs from people because it is so expensive. But yeah, definitely if you guys want to get fabric, TJ is the place to go.
Yeah. My dad, he makes like bags because we don't want to buy the ones and like ruin the environment. And so it's like we make it out of like old pants, like you said, curtains, because I used to have these like pink curtains that were like really, really long and then we stopped using them. So we made bags out of that.
You know, and I'm saying that, it reminded me of a story. I don't remember the name of the book, but you probably read it. It's probably a book for like someone in like first or third grade. And it's a story of this little mouse that was gifted a blanket. And as the mouse kept getting older, well, the blanket turned into a shirt or into a sweater, into a scarf. And little by little, they were reusing that blanket and they were making different things out of it. Obviously, until the very end where the mouse was older, didn't need like a blanket anymore. He needed a tie. So they made a tie out of the blanket. And I think about that story all the time as I'm like with the students, even as they're creating these scrunchies or creating, you know, like bags. Later on, they might no longer need the bag and they could do something with that to, you know, continue the resourcefulness of the fabric. But yeah.
And how can people join or support the sewing elective or even just learn more about sewing?
My doors are always open for students who are serious and learning to sew. You're always welcome. I'm never going to tell you, nope, I'm not going to teach you. I will get you started with the basics of it. So students who are wanting to join my class, they do have to know it is one of the classes that gets filled up quick, mainly because it's something new. And I think that a lot of people just want to try it, like, what can I do here? How can I use this? Or what does this class look like? Because I have not heard of any other middle schools that have sewing. High schools, yes, but middle schools, no. So maybe just that idea of it being so new is what brings them in. If you want to get started or if you want to try, the best days to catch me are tutoring Tuesdays after school, because that's really when I will be there. So if you have nothing else to do, your grades are looking good, you can just stop on by and, I want to start. Can you teach me the basics? Once I teach you the basics, from then on, it's basically just kind of you figuring out what you want to do with this. Like, is it just you learning to stitch your pants together because they ripped? Or is it you trying to create I don't know, something bigger, right? Like a project. And the best way to help support my class is if you have fabric or anything old at home that you are no longer using, bring it to me. I will take it. And we're going to work with it and see what we can make from it, because there's always something that we can do with it. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's great, just talking about resourcefulness, because it's really important to talk about resourcefulness. Mm-hmm. So I have two questions. One off topic, kind of around resourcefulness. How can you promote people being more resourceful so they can support your club like that?
So I think that the idea of just using anything that's laying around and making something new out of it is already a big message for them. But moving forward, I want them to know, because we're in a time where people just, something breaks or doesn't work. It's I can't use it anymore. Throw it away. Or it doesn't fit me anymore. Throw it away. And it's but there's so much more we can do with it, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that we can help our environment by understanding, something can be made from something that someone might
throw it.
Yeah, think of as trash, right? We can make something out of it. And I think that it's gonna help you guys more. You're gonna save money, right? You're gonna be able to save money in the future when someone says. And it's funny because the other day I was actually looking up online, and there was a student or a girl that said, I found this dress online and it was $200. Very basic dress, no design. It's just, I think it was brown, and it was just a kind of a short dress, kind of for a dance. She's like, I can make that dress less than $200. I was looking at the process of how she was making it, $10. No one's going to come around and check your tag oh, is this $200? No, they're just going to be oh, that looks good on you. Where'd you get it? Mm-hmm. Imagine how cool what did you make? Or where'd you get it? Oh, I made it. It's what, where, how can I get one? How much, right? Mm-hmm. That can open up a business. I had a student, this is our second year with this sewing club. And so last year I had a lot of students who were definitely in the class to just kind of figure out what it was. But I had other students who already knew how to sew. And just wanted to be there to create something that they already had in mind. I had a student who learned how to make patches, and she, from now that I know of, she emailed me the other day. She's like, Miss Samaro, I make patches in my school and I sell them for $20. I was like, really? He's like, where do you get? Oh yeah, it's so cheap to buy things the thread. It's cheap. I can just make that, but I charge them more because it takes me time. And I asked her how are you balancing that with your schoolwork? And she's like, because this is my hobby. I like that. And she's like, and I'm able to have something on the side. That's my little business that I do. And it's pretty cool. So, the message of just knowing that something so small or something that someone may no longer see value in could be something greater. And that's huge. And then you also learning to a new skill and manage what you're doing it's amazing. You guys are going places, and then taking all these skills that we all have to offer for you. Their goal, take them and do with them what you will.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure I saw a quote not too long ago about one man's trash is another man's treasure. It just means a lot, considering that people are resourceful nowadays.
Yes.
To I know back then it was we had tons of protests about climate activists. There's tons of that. Mm-hmm. But besides that point, I want to ask the question of how do you promote sustainability and environmental awareness through your sewing class?
I think just basically continuing to practice in my class, showing my students that we're able to, once again, create something. I think just showing them, and it's funny because I showed them how to like cut fabric too. And like when we look at fabric, we never want to cut from the center. We want to cut around, because if we cut from the center, we could have look at all this extra fabric that we no longer can use. Like now we're gonna have to throw it away. And they're like, no, but we can make something out of it. And I'm like, yeah, we can. So the way I promote it is I literally like I will. It's gonna sound funny, and don't laugh at me, but I will stand like right where my trash can is, and if I see like big amount of fabric or thread being thrown, I'm like, we can still use that. Pick it up, and they'll go in and like, I'll pick it up. They'll pick it up, go wrap it around over there. We can use it. If it's about this big, I tell them that they can still use it. You can still do something with it. But if it's like little threads like that, then I'm like, okay. But I have to show that it pains me to even throw it away, because I'm like, really? Like you couldn't have thought like of a different way to use that so that we wouldn't have had so much to go to waste. So I just promote it that way, just kind of like through my actions and, like doing what I can to just like model what that looks like so that they do it. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I keep on forgetting it. Okay. What is an overlocker and do you need it?
Funny question. I was looking at that too. So I was looking at it earlier, and it seems to be, I've never used one or seen one, but it seems to be like a sewing machine, but it has a different purpose to like help you create neater stitches, right? Mm-hmm. So do I need it? I don't need it because the reason why I don't use them in my classes is because I'm trying to make sewing seem like something that you can just do anywhere, right? You can find a needle and thread anywhere. Yeah. You can't always find a sewing machine, right? If you stay maybe like at a hotel, you'll notice some hotels do give you like thread and needle, right? It's like a quick little fix. But sewing machines, it's like, oh, okay, like, yes, you can probably use it, but like, will you have one then and there readily available? Maybe not. So yeah, what I saw is basically it's like a sewing machine, but it has a different purpose than the other. I think it had like 4 threads. So yeah, and so something funny. I used to use a sewing machine. My dad actually taught me how to use it a long time ago. And so I do remember like the most stressful part about it was just getting like the thread through the needle and having it like actually connect. That was the most frustrating part. So I remember doing that to my dad. You know what? I cannot do this. Maybe just give me the needle, give me the thread, tell me what to do. I will sit there until it looks like a machine did it. Like I will get up. And so that's basically what I do. But I don't use it, and I do know it's that though.
All right. And is it possible to learn how to sew at home? Like teach yourself to sew?
Yeah, definitely. Then we just talked about YouTube. Like YouTube can teach you. Go buy your thread, your needle, whatever you want to do, look it up, and it's gonna show you. There are many techniques. Like everything is through YouTube now, but I mean, I think the one thing that YouTube cannot teach you, which I know we're just so used to seeing those shorts, like the short videos, right? And we think like it's gonna be done in 15 seconds. It's not gonna be done in 15 seconds, especially if you're a beginner. It's gonna take time, maybe a minute or two once you have been more comfortable with your sewing skills. But one thing that I think YouTube cannot teach you is patience. And you'd be surprised how many people like get impatient. I've seen people cry in sewing class because they're so frustrated. They're just like, why can't I get this done? Like, why am I not able? I've done this 3 times. Miss Amara, what's the problem? I have to let them figure it out, which is hard, just to stand behind and see the person like making the mistake. And it's just kind of like, but that's when they're learning. So I have to learn to back off. Once I see the student finally like, I'm done throwing in the towel. It's like, okay, let's see what you did. Take it apart and figure it out. So yeah, I think patience is like the most basic thing that YouTube cannot teach you. But if you learn to have patience with yourself and for this type of art, then yeah, I think it's doable.
What are some like future plans you have for the sewing club and just for yourself with sewing in general?
So this is our second year. I've hoped to get to the end where I have a group of students make a dress or make some sort of outfit for someone to wear. Like I was thinking of this year now, and because this year I have students who seem to be more focused on it and like enjoy it more and really they're just excelling like quicker than my other students have ever had. Not to say they did, but this group of students just seems to be very like, self-sufficient, which is what you need. Because I can't be everywhere at all times, but they need to know how to fix things or figure things out. I'm hoping to put together like groups of students by the end of this school year and assign them each a role. You know, so anyone's going to be responsible for either, let's say they're making the top of an outfit or, you know, the bottoms of an outfit, learning to take those measurements, which we've started, but we haven't really done measurements on each other. So I'm hoping to do that project with them, to create something that way. And where I got that idea was in high school, I had a friend who we had a sewing, but it was actually an after school program. It was not an elective. So I remember it was, I think it was like this winter formal. It was like one of the dances, like near December. And I had the friend who came and asked me like, hey, can I take your measurements? I'm trying to make a dress for someone. And I think I know how to make a dress for you. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, let's go. He took me and I felt very like important. Like, oh my gosh, you know, like take my measurements, make a dress for me. Like, that's crazy, you know? I'm so used to going to the store and just getting what they have, but now like something custom made for myself. So he took my measurements. I'm not gonna lie to you, it took him like a month or two. It took him a while. And he told me, it's not gonna be perfect. I hope you're able to wear it. She's like, I hope you are. Like, it actually, like, it fits you well. But I just wanted to try and I wanted to see like how it would end up like looking on you. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, we'll try it. I remember he made the dress for me and he told me, I'm gonna be in the fashion industry in the future and I want you to have my first dress. So I'm gonna keep making dresses. I was like, okay. So he made the dress, I put it on. It was great. It was good. It was good. For it coming from someone who was just starting, like the very beginning, I felt very honored. I still have that dress. I still have it. Like, it does not fit me anymore because I was obviously like, I look different. But I still have it. I keep it like it's something that was made for me, like from the Met Gala or something, because it's like, it means that much to me. So I want my students to feel that. And I want them to feel that excitement. I think this year I'm able to do that with them more. So I think they're going to enjoy it once I get the details to it and figure out like the logistics behind how that's going to work out.
Feel very special.
Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely. It's very rewarding when you create something that it's nowhere else. Like you can't find it anywhere else. There might be something that looks just like it, but like, you know, the stitches, you know, the work that went into, you know, what parts gave you the most like difficult time. Yeah, the uniqueness of it. And it's really nice. And the best thing is, again, someone asking you, where did you buy it? You're like, oh, I made it. Yeah, that's the best.
Do you want to wrap it up?
It's because I thought it was you because I got it. Okay, so I'm so sorry.
Sorry.
So yeah, I kind of have a misconception because I find sometimes people find stuff too easy, and I notice that during times that stuff is not as easy as it looks like. So my question for that is, which sewing machine is most suitable for beginners?
So I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't used a sewing machine in a while. So I don't think a sewing machine would be suitable for beginners, maybe hand stitch, because they need to learn like how that works so that they're able to understand the machine. So personally, I wouldn't know which one would be best for them as beginners, but you know, needle and thread is my best advice for them. That's my honest response.
Okay, to follow up, how do you foster a sense of community and collaboration among the sewing elective members? And do you belong to any sewing groups like outside or organizations?
So in the classroom, my sewing class, I basically follow first off, there needs to be classroom management. Overall, it is a classroom. There are students who I need to make sure that and understand what that looks like. We go over expectations just like any other teacher, right? But then once I go over the expectations of what it means to be in the sewing class, respect overall in this class is huge because you're working with needles, you're working with tools, things that can hurt someone. And if they don't know what the idea of respect is, like that's a red flag for me. Do I want them in my class? Can I trust them in that class with other students, right? So that was huge. Once I go past, establishing my expectations for the classroom, I go into what is respect when it comes to sewing. And then we talk about the tools, respecting the tools, respecting the place, right? You're going to be working with needles. You're going to be working with sharp objects. Do you know what they're supposed to be used for and what they're not supposed to be used for? That's huge, right? And I think as I'm teaching that, it's building community because they all have an understanding of what is okay to do in the class and what is not okay. I have them sign a contract, just like your lab safety contract, but mine is sewing. And so it has all these like the expectations and the consequences for it. And yeah, and I do tell my students, there is a wait list to enter. At any moment, I can just take you out and put in the next student. I was like, when my students get pulled for support classes, they literally come to me and they're like, Miss Amaro, what about my spot? Am I going to be able to come back here? And you have to let them know. Just remember, bring those grades up so that you're able to enter. So they know that at any moment they can, someone can take that spot. And I still have students asking me like, do you have a spot? Can I come in? And so because of, I guess, again, the class size, I only am allowed to have about 35 students. So if I have anyone else that's interested, they can come after school to be able to work on that. So basically, yeah, community is just by establishing the sign of respect, classroom management, and, just making sure that I'm sharp on them. If they ever step out of line, I have to make a big deal out of it because it's a student safety that we're talking about here, right? So that's how I do that.
Let's make this the last question for Ms. Amaro.
Okay, I'll do it. This is just kind of like a random question, but if you're able to travel to anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?
I think Europe. I've always wanted to go to Europe. It has not happened. I have not had my Europe trip. I know I will. I want to go to Italy so bad. And I don't know. I don't know why. I want to go to Italy. I want to go see like Vatican City. I just want to be where history was. I know history is everywhere, but I want to see where those events took place. I want to know. I've heard so much that European life is so different than here, that everything's just moves so much slower over there. Like people actually sit down to eat. They're not like rushing like to eat. So I want to see what that's like. And I want to hear like, what school is like over there for other students. Like, what are your values here? What do they teach you about? What are the jobs that people like press you to, want to follow and pursue? So I kind of just I want to see what that's like over there. I think that's where I want to go.
Well, thank you so much for coming and telling us about Italy and sewing and everything.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And good job, guys. I've been listening to your podcast. We play it while we're in sewing. So, and I post it up there for them to listen to. And yeah, you guys are doing great. And congrats on your last award at Cal State.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you guys.
Yeah.
Eagle time. You hear it? It's coming. Eagle time, eagle time, eagle time, eagle. Eagle time, 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 eagle. Eagle time, 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 eagle. Eagle time, 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 eagle. Eagle time, eagle time, eagle time, eagle.